Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Good Talkers podcast. I am Deanna Cooney, and as always, I'm joined by the delicious Tessa Livingston,
Oh, hello, I'm delicious today. That's nice.
the very, very tasty Ashton Haugen,
Right, I am tasty. Yeah, how did you know?
and the scrumptious Jordan Greville, our producer.
I'll take that one. That one's good. Scrumptious.
Yeah, thought I'd
Great
go
word.
with like a food-oriented, superlative kind of vibe today. I
Yummy.
hope everybody appreciates that.
Yes.
I'm actually hungry. That's why that happened.
I was just about to ask you if you were hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry. Now, this is really exciting because this is our first episode of season 4. Season 4. Holy shit. That means, folks, that there are 30 episodes of the Good Talkers podcast in the bank. You can binge this shit like a mofo if you want to, right? Like, you can just spend the next, I don't know, like, it's like a week's worth of work almost, because some of our episodes go for an hour or longer. Right? So, they're supposed to be like 30 minutes or something, and they're never that short, ever. But you've got a lot of good stuff in the last 3 seasons. So, if you're just finding us now, feel free to like go back and binge the crap out of everything else that we've done so far, because there's so much good stuff in there, right? And so today we're going to kick off season 4 with like a really interesting conversation about the importance of solid vocal work, right? And I'm not going to talk too much about that, because before we step into that, we're going to do something new. We're doing a new thing this season. So season 4, the kind of theme for season 4, sort of, is tongue twisters. Woo!
Hey!
So, and this ties in really nicely with this concept of like vocal work. And like I said, we'll talk about that more in a minute, and you'll see how the tongue twister kind of thing links to that idea of vocal work and vocal skill and the craft of actually creating shapes with your mouth, right? So tongue twisters, dun, da, da. Do we have one that we can jump into straight away? Because I reckon we just kick off the episode with the tongue twister.
All right.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Producer Jordan, did you put it in the chat for us?
Yeah,
Is that
I
what it
did.
is?
So the question is, do I read it first? Is that me going first, or is that you going first, Deanna, and reading the chat?
Well, I'm happy to read it out of the chat as a sentence, not doing it as a let's see how fast we can do it, right? Like let's say what the sentence is, right? And then we'll play with the tongue twister
go.
kind of
You
vibe
got it
of
there
it,
in the
okay?
chat? You can
I
see
do.
it?
I'm looking at it right
Awesome.
now.
Let's go.
So here is the tongue twister. How can a clam cram in a clean cream can?
What the fuck does that even mean?
Means nothing.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't mean anything. How
Alright.
can a clam cram in a clean cream can? All right. Tess is doing warm-ups already.
I'm stretching my
Tess
face,
is like,
honestly.
Speaking of warm-ups, is this like a smart thing to do if you're
Yeah.
doing voiceover and you're about to do something? Like if you
Yeah,
did
tongue
5 of
twisters
these
are
in a row,
great
would
for
it
warm-ups.
be? Is it good for facial like muscle
Yeah,
stuff?
but
or-
tongue twisters with intention.
Yes.
Tongue twisters just going blah, 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 blah. They do nothing for you. Yeah. you want to be over articulating them so that you are actually nailing each of those consonants and each of those vowels, because if you just do it blah, 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 you're not actually warming anything. You're just
Practicing
you might be
saying
moving
some words.
You're just practicing saying some words. You might be warming up your tongue speed, and if you're doing like a Heath Ledger style like Brokeback Mountain kind of accent, and you know how he doesn't like move his lips at all and he just talks through, he doesn't even open his jaw. If you're doing that, fine, use a tongue twister for that, no problem, but on average you want to be like hyper activating your face.
Yeah, it's an articulation warm-up process, right? And so you want to be like really, really activating all of your articulators while you're doing the thing. I have a trick that I use for tongue twisters, and I'm not going to show you right now.
I bet I know
probably
what it
shown you
is.
in past episodes, to be
bet I
honest.
know what it
So
is.
like if you've listened or watched before, you probably already know this trick. And I know you guys do because I've shown you before. But what I want to do is I want all of us to have a go at it first, and then we're going to do the exercise that I have, and we're going to see how that impacts our ability to articulate something like this clearly. How's that sound?
Yep.
Love it.
Good.
Okay, great. All right, have a go. Fuck it up, people. Get it wrong.
I'm feeling real fucking competitive, so I'm going to go first. I'm ready for this shit. I'm going to get it so bad as well. It's going to be great. How can a clam cram in a clean cream can?
Oh, that was
Pretty good.
close.
I got
Pretty good.
clicked at the end.
Yeah, have one more
Yeah.
go fast.
How can a clam cram in a clinking fuck?
Oh, yeah. Good.
There was no fucks in that
Jordan
sentence.
just did a thumbs down.
Do you know
Maybe
that
we need
awesome
a
until the
sound.
last two words.
Do you know that's
Amazing.
so do you know what's really, really offensive? And I think this is hilarious. If you drive past someone and they do something bad and like people like pull the fingers at them and they're like, it doesn't actually do anything. If you do the thumbs down at them, it's so much worse.
Oh,
Rather than
I
being
like
like angry, you just go,
You're shit.
bad.
You're not an imposter. You're amazing.
Thank you for the feedback, Jordan. I appreciate it. I'll try harder next time.
Ashton, your turn.
Oh, okay. Ready? How can a clam cram in a clean cream can? Oh. Let me
Do
do
that
it
again?
faster.
Right.
I reckon
That
you
was
can
a
get it
little bit
cleaner.
slow.
It can be a little bit cleaner, I reckon, yeah.
How can a clam cram in a clean... Ooh,
You went southern.
Yeah. How can a clam cream?
How can a clam cram in a clean cream can?
Oh, actually, that worked.
I do have to go. If you go southern for me, I don't know why. It just
How can a
like,
clam
makes
cram
it
and a
better.
clean cram? Like, it
How can
kind
a
of...
clam cram and a clean cream can?
'Cause it kinda
But
sounds
I
like
think
a
it's
thing
because
they would say.
I'm actually not.
You're not
being
really
articulate.
articulating.
No. So let me
Yeah.
try one more time being for real. Okay.
Yeah.
How can a clam cram in a clean cream can? Ooh,
It's
it's
hard.
the clean cream
Cream
can. That's
Clean
the
cream
hard
can.
part. Yeah.
Oh,
Don't practice
oh.
too much. Don't practice too much. Okay.
I just
Okay.
saw my face
Jordan.
do a thing and now I've figured it
Okay,
out.
I'll have a go. How can a can? Oh, yeah, I got it wrong. Read.
Yeah.
How can a clam cram in a clean cream can? Oh
Ooh,
man.
nice. Nice.
Oh.
Nice. Do you want to have another go?
Yeah, one more.
Go.
Yeah.
How can a clam cram in a clean cream can? Ah.
Oh, that was tighter.
That was pretty
tighter. Well
good.
done.
It was tighter. Okay.
Yeah.
How can a clam cram in a clean cream can?
How did you do that?
What just happened?
How can
was
a clam cram in a
witchcraft.
clean cram can?
What? Clean
Oh,
cream
clean
cram
clean-
can. I said.
clean.
How can a clam cram in a clean cream can?
It's fast, but is it?
It's not perfect.
It's
by
not
any
per-
stretch of the
like-
imagination. I'm making all the sounds and I'm saying all the things.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting sharp articulation.
That's what
on
I was- that's what I was
clean
thinking.
Cream can.
Yeah. I was after the sharp tick.
You're also doing like something very strange with your face. I don't mean that in an offensive way, but you are doing something strange
I'm doing a lot of
with your
movement.
face.
I'm doing heaps of
You're
movement.
doing like sideways.
Just with your
movement.
mouth, though.
Yeah.
It's like you're not moving anything but your mouth. And it
Yeah.
seems like very weird and
That's
robotic.
really funny, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
How can a clam cram in a clean cream can?
See?
Lots of mouth movement is
Yeah.
key for tongue
What's the
twisters.
secret, Deanna? You said you got a little
Okay,
trick.
so I've got a little trick for you. Okay, so Tess talked before about how you want to really activate the muscles that are in there, and what you can do to make them work even harder is add an obstruction to the process, right? And make the muscles work even harder than they would without the obstruction in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I know
built
what
on
you're
the
talking
premise of if you want to build muscle well, right? You add weight. Okay, so like for instance, if you're doing squats, right, you put on a weight vest or you stick a weight bar over your shoulder or you hold onto dumbbells or something like that and you increase the weight of the squats, right? But what happens is when you let go of the weight, the muscles do the action like way more effectively and efficiently after you take the weights away. So if you want to get good at running up hills, wear a weight vest while you're running up hills and then take the weight vest off and you'll go up the hill real fast, right? Because the muscles in your legs are used to pushing against more weight to get you to move. And then when you take away the weight, your muscles use the same force to get you there and you go further and faster because there isn't as much in the way, right? So we're going to do the same thing with our mouth. We're going to bend our index finger, and I like using my finger for this because it gives me biofeedback and I don't bite down too hard. Because if you were watching me do that tongue twister, you would have noticed, right? There was a lot of mouth movement and jaw tension decreases the amount of agility and movement that you have available to you in your mouth and in your articulators, right? And you want your tongue and your jaw to be open and free so that they can make all of those like complex movements and do it sharply. So the openness is important for all of the movements to happen, and the obstruction is important for creating sharp muscular activation. Okay, so bend finger, put it in between your teeth, bite down on the crook of your finger. Okay, now you're going to say the tongue twister, how can a clam cram in a clean cream can? and you're going to really articulate every single sound and push hard against the obstruction while you're
Are we
doing
all going to do it at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
same time.
awesome. All right,
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
How can a clam against a clean cream can? 3 times. How can a clam cram a clean cream can?
How can a clam cram in a clean cream can? How can a clam cram?
I laughed too much, so I had to keep going.
In a clean cream can?
I
Okay.
started
I
laughing.
thought this
Ashton.
was going to be a good idea.
This is golden content.
This
Yeah.
is,
Okay.
Right?
this
That
has
was
just
amazing
gone
to
next
listen
level.
to. So now that we've like stepped down from it, we might have to do it again just to reactivate the muscles. But Ashton, just have a go.
Okay. How can a clam cram in a clean cream can?
Boom.
Amazing.
Your face is, you're all like, I'm what? How did I do that?
That was
How crisp
really-
was that?
That was really easy. That was
Yeah.
too easy. That was too easy. Yeah.
Do it again.
That was good. How can a clam cram in a clean cream can?
You've taught the muscles how to do the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's easier.
Up
Much easier
against
now.
obstruction, right? You force the muscles to work really hard to create the shapes, and now you take the obstruction away. How can a clam cram in a clean cream can?
How can a clam cram in a clean king cram? No.
Close, close.
Yeah,
Do it again.
I didn't read it. Clean cream
Clean cream can. Clean cream can. Clean cream can.
How can a clam cram in a clean cream can? Cam?
Well, close, but you said cam at the
I
end.
did say cam.
But concentrate on the words, like lots of movement in the mouth.
I black out, honestly, when this happens.
Yes.
I stop reading.
Yeah.
How can a clam cram in a clean can? No, I've lost it. I'm complete.
Yeah.
I kind of want to try something that I like to do. I do this for American accent more, but I think it might be helpful. How can a clam cram in a clean cram? No, I'm out.
Yeah.
I've patterned something.
Yes.
Yeah. And so
Yeah,
I'm getting stuck
too
in there.
late.
I'm going to come back to this at the end of the episode, I think.
Great.
Give it a
I think
whirl.
that's really
Oh,
useful.
that's a good
And this is a patterning exercise.
Yeah.
Right?
And I've
And
patterned
it-
something and it's gotten
Yeah, you've
stuck.
patterned something,
So
right?
we need to come away from that.
Using an obstruction is a really great way to interrupt a pattern. If you're stuck in a bad pattern and you need to build a new one, you use an obstruction to build the new pattern so
Yep.
that it gets ingrained into the muscular kind of activation. Jordan, it's your turn. Do you need to do 3 more of
No,
the finger biting
definitely
thing?
don't.
Go.
I've got this. How can a clam cram in a clean cream can?
See? So good.
Bravo.
So good.
I'm happy with that. The others were questionable. I'm happy with that one.
Yeah. How
Nice.
can a clam cran and a clean cream can?
How can a clam cram in a clean can? No, I've got king can going on. I don't know what
Yes.
a king can is.
The other thing I do
fun,
with tongue twisters is find the shape.
I
Like,
find
pick
the
the
rhythm.
phrases
Yeah.
and find the shape for the phrases. So how can a is one, clam cram is one, and inner is one, and clean cream can is a phrase as well.
Yeah.
So if you break it
Clean
up into
cream
the
can.
phrases, sometimes it gets easier. Clean cream
Yeah.
can.
I think I was subconsciously doing that slightly a little bit too. Because if you can break down the sounds into chunks and
Yeah.
then just squish all those sound chunks together, it's
Yeah.
easier. Yeah.
I tend to use my hands as well. That's what I was doing
I
in the
noticed
first bit.
that
I was
you were
using
doing like
that's
hand
that's
things.
that's how I actually find it easier. And I reckon if I chucked my hands back in there, how can a clam cram and a clean cram? No, I've still got that fucking
Yeah.
sound in there.
Because
Onwards,
you've built
people,
in
onwards.
clean keen.
Onwards,
Yeah,
clean keen.
I'm about to move us on, but thank you for the heads up, Jordan. Okay, so
I'm out.
now that we've done all of this tongue twistery business, okay, what we are going to talk about now is the value of this in the context of like modern acting culture. Okay. And the reason we want to talk about this is because Netflix have just recently come out and said something that really, really accurately reflects my personal experience of watching things on TV, right? It's not quite the same in cinema, I don't think, although I think it definitely shows up in cinema as well. But when you're in a cinema, you've got these big speakers and it's different. You get a different sort of sound landscape that you're involved in, right? But when you're watching something on TV, the area that you can get the sound from is a little reduced, right? So Netflix have just come out recently and said that its platform has done some surveys, right? And they've revealed that 40% of their users regularly turn on subtitles. 40%, right, of people watching Netflix shows are using subtitles. And some research from a British charity found that young people are almost 4 times more likely than older viewers to watch TV shows with subtitles. They don't have hearing problems, right? This is not about not being able to hear things well. It's about the clarity with which dialogue is being delivered. And that's my experience. My experience these days is if I don't turn on the subtitles, I don't know what the fuck people are saying. I can hear, but I can't distinguish.
Yes.
Right. And just to be clear, we're not talking about turning on subtitles to enjoy a movie that is not in the language that you speak.
Yeah.
That's the other bit.
Just to be clear.
That's it.
Yeah, excellent clarification. Yeah, right. Like I'm watching shit in my native language,
Yes.
right? And I can't understand. I can't distinguish the words, right? And there's a real lack of diction that is happening in this space.
Huge.
So let's talk about this, right? And I'm obsessive about this shit, right? Because
Me too.
I'm a big fan of good diction. It's partly because it was drilled into me by my mother while I was growing up. Speak properly, Deanna. You know, I got lots and lots of that when I was a kid. My mum's lovely. That sounded like she was a witch, but she's actually really nice. But she absolutely was a freak about like grammar, about speaking well, about articulating my words properly, being heard. We weren't allowed to say gonna or wanna. We had to say going to, want to. So that like process of really clearly enunciating and being having a really high degree of diction in the way that I speak has been in me for a very, very long time, right? And I was on a film set recently acting. It was actually in the last 12 months, so it's not super recently, but you know, we were being recorded by sound recordists using booms and all that kind of stuff while we were acting in this web series. And one of the sound people came up to me after my first day on set and said, "You have the most beautiful diction. I can understand every single sound you make."
Aw.
You
That's
know,
sweet.
and I
So
wasn't being over the top in my enunciation. And this is the thing: diction and enunciation, different things, right?
Can you explain the difference?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So enunciation is, I think, the sharpness with which you say sounds and the amount of clarity of like individual sounds. So I am speaking with very sharp enunciation right now. I'm hitting all of the sounds very, very clearly. This is not the same as diction, right? Right now I'm speaking with a softer enunciation, but my diction is still very, very clear. You can hear every single sound that I'm making. Every word that I'm saying sounds like it's being clearly like enunciated, but not sharply enunciated. So enunciation is kind of like a thing that crosses all of the ways that we speak. And diction is very specifically about how well am I being understood on the other end.
I think I have a good example of this. So I mentioned him just before, Heath Ledger in Brokeback Mountain. He doesn't open his mouth, but his enunciation is bang on. You can, is it the right way around? You can still understand him, or is it diction?
I think that's diction, right?
Diction.
Well, enunciation isn't like on or off. You're always enunciating.
Yeah.
It just depends on how like hard or
Yes.
soft you're enunciating.
So he wasn't articulating in the sense that he was moving his mouth a lot, but he would have his mouth almost closed and you could still hear every single thing that he was saying. So I don't know how to define that, but that was something that I always found really interesting because he's not using your traditional articulatory sense of moving your lips, moving your jaw, blah, 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 blah. He had everything closed, but you could still understand everything he said.
I think it's interesting because in school I was always taught that diction is more the meaning of diction is actually word choice instead of instead of like the way that you are forming your words. The way that you're forming your words is more falling in line with enunciation and even slightly pronunciation. But
just Googled it.
pronunciation means the proper, or the way that you, how the word can be said in several different ways and still means the same thing.
Yes.
So what is the definition, Deanna?
So there's two, okay? The first is what you just said, the choice and use of words and phrases in speech or writing, okay?
What are we defining? Which word? Diction.
Diction,
Diction, right.
And then the second one is the style of enunciation in speaking or singing.
Okay.
So that makes sense, right?
Makes total sense, yeah.
Like soft floppy diction is this kind of thing where you can't really understand very much of the words and this is pretty messy diction, right? This is very, very sharp, and I guess you could probably apply enunciation to the same thing, like this is poor enunciation. This is very sharp enunciation, So maybe actually diction and enunciation are kind of the same thing. I don't know. I'm going to do a Google on that.
I think that's a great idea because I actually don't know. To me, I think I've used those words interchangeably for quite a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then articulation is like the same as diction or no? Because it's the choice of words and the way you put them together, which is the same as articulating your words in a way that you, or do I just miscorrectly use articulation
I don't
all
think
the time?
so. I think you're right. To me, articulation means the manner in which your articulators communicate with each other. So lip articulation or tongue and alveolar ridge, like those sorts of things, like how those things are actually meeting as you go to use them. Deanna, you got excited. Do you have a definition?
Yeah. Well, because what this is saying is the secondary meaning of diction, the one that we talked about clarity of speech, is synonymous with enunciation. But it's really interesting because when I'm teaching this to people, I consider those two things as different words to frame things differently, So enunciation feels like, to me, it's something that maybe applies across a sentence or a phrase, like it's more of an umbrella kind of term. And diction for me feels like a very specific thing that relates to the shaping of the sounds and the clarity of the individual sounds. But that's probably just a thing that I have developed in the way that I teach these concepts to people.
That's really interesting because before we started recording today, Tessa and I specifically were talking about a transatlantic accent.
Yeah.
And I feel like that almost falls into the spectrum of articulation, like addiction, I guess, more because of the way that you dictate the words in a transatlantic accent is strange. Would you like to show us, Tessa? Can you do it on the spot? I know I'm totally calling you out.
That's
Like,
totally fine. Yes, I can. I pretend like I'm on the radio in the 1950s, and I make sure that everything it's quite sharp. It is. It's got a lot of and if you just did it in sound, that is what it would sound like. That's how I tend to key into accents, is that you hear the sounds on a on more melodic sort of sound. But yes, it has that quite sort of sound, and I can't think of anything else to say other than it sounds like that.
No, that was great. That was exactly what I was talking about. Thank you. Beautiful demonstration.
Thank you. Oh. Now I won't be able to leave it. I could do the whole show in this one if you like.
Oh, no.
No, it would drive me fucking mental.
Could we all do the whole show this way?
Do you know what was really interesting? When I went to say the word fuck in a transatlantic accent, my mouth went, I don't know how to make that sound because I've never heard a transatlantic person say that word.
Yeah.
My mouth stumbled over it.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, look, so if I say something like luck, yes, fuck.
Yes,
fuck,
fuck.
luck. Fuck sounds really weird. Or fucking something. No, it sounds strange.
I think you could probably say bloody.
Oh, that's bloody awful. Oh, yes, absolutely. That fits. Yeah, totally.
Bloody fucking awful.
That's bloody fucking awful. I don't want to do that anymore. Thank you. Oh.
Hilarious.
Pip, pip.
Pip, pip. Off we go. Off we go. So anyway, that was a little diversion down. What does diction mean? What does enunciation mean? What is articulation even?
I don't even think we got to
really
a proper
good.
definition in the end. I think we've just kind of got to that corner of all mean the same.
I think
They all mean the
closer.
same. They're probably all they're considered synonyms, I guess. But I think probably it also comes down to how we use them. Because you could probably use diction, enunciation, and articulation in a sentence and not have them mean the same things.
Yeah. I would say that diction and articulation to me are the same thing, because that to me is almost means rate, but how quick things are able to move together cleanly.
That's so interesting.
Whereas enunciation to me is more of a fuller sound, getting more roundness, getting more shape. So if I'm doing my transatlantic sound, it's much more enunciated than my typical Kiwi sound because it's much narrower and much flatter. That's how I would define those.
See, I think enunciation is being able to be understood. Well, I think diction is way more stylized. It's a style. Less about being, to me, it's less about being as understood as you need both. You need to be articulate and you need to have the diction. You need to be understood, but you need to be understood with style. You know what I mean?
See, I think
I love
diction is a function of articulation.
Oh my days. You know what we've just beautifully pointed out inside our community is that we do not have language for this. Every vocal coach, every singing teacher, every fucking anything inside this has their own language for how we teach this stuff. And sometimes it can be a real problem.
But it's also why you should train with as many different people as possible, right? Because it might be that my way of explaining this works for you, or it might be that it doesn't at all and actually Tessa's way or Ashton's way really, really works for you. So Like, I just think that's beautiful. I think that's
Lovely.
awesome.
Lovely.
All right, let's get back to
Oh,
the
yeah.
question of like Netflix and subtitles and all that kind of stuff. So I've heard people say that this is a result of naturalistic acting, right? So directors are much more concerned with the performance being naturalistic than the performance being very clearly articulated, right? And so potentially there's like a little bit of a step away from the idea that using your voice in a way that is controlled and designed to be heard as clearly as possible is not as important anymore. How do we feel about that?
I actually really agree with that. I think because so frequently I am told to turn down my articulation all the time. And Ash, I feel like we've talked about this before with our musical theatre kind of backgrounds, and always being told to turn down my articulation. But you know what pisses me off about this is that you can be naturalistic and still be understood. So like it's kind of like we're taking the idea of taking away training and technique because being over pronounced or overdone is going to stop you getting work, but you should be able to do both.
Yes.
And you should be able to do both with technique.
And you should be able to soften off the tension in some places and maintain the tension in others, because that's what it is, right? Being able to be gentler in your overall approach to articulation, having softer articulation should be on a different dial to the crispness and the clarity of the sound that you're able to produce.
Yes.
So I am going to, I think that it's an interesting conversation for us to have because we are vocal athletes. We are people who are very in tune with our voice specifically. Now, I think the actors of the movies that we watch, I don't think that they probably are as aware of this, and the directors are probably not as aware of this. But I'm going to be like the actor person in this and say that sometimes to me, as a enjoyer of these films and as an actor, period, I feel like sometimes it is better and more important to nail the emotional communication rather than to nail the diction and the articulation. Now, because we are voice actors, we are more inclined to be able to hopefully do both, especially if we're doing character work, we're doing things with video games or animation. Now, we've been trained to know how to do both of those things simultaneously. But I don't think that people who are stepping into acting spaces that are on camera so much are probably thinking about this as much as they're thinking about what I'm wearing or do I have the right headshot or, there's other things that people who are not voice actors think about. Yeah. Like we don't have to think about those things. We don't have to think about what I'm going to wear or what my hair looks like when I step into a booth. But on-screen actors do. So maybe that's the trade-off. I don't know.
I think this is this comes down to training, and there's an extraordinary number of actors out in the world who aren't formally trained. And that's beautiful. That's a really good thing. This is a profession that you absolutely can be incredibly successful at with zero formal training. You can do all of your training on the job, right? You can do that as a voiceover talent as well, right? And what I'm finding is that I'm blessed with the fact that I have been able to get formal voice training throughout my career, right? And because I'm a voiceover talent, like you say, Ashton, I am very focused on vocal stuff. It's 25 years of focusing on this shit. That's just what happens, Yeah. But most actors, I would say, don't have the benefit of that level of training, that level of, like you say, awareness. And I actually think maybe that's something that needs to be brought to people's attention a little bit more. Not that like, oh, you have to go get formal training. Not that, because it's actually really hard to get into formal training institutions, right? When you think about the number of places at drama schools, it's really small compared to the number of actors that are out there working, right?
Yes.
So we know you don't have to go get formal training to be a working actor. We know that for sure. But what most actors realize is that it is useful to get improv training, that it is useful to go do some acting workshops and learn what casting directors want from you and all that kind of stuff. So how about we just add into that, like, that idea of these are the types of training that we should be getting as an actor, just add in that vocal training is something that's really, really helpful and useful as a additional tool to bring to your toolkit, you know?
Yeah, I think I was really fortunate growing up and training as an actor that I was also really into singing, and I've been singing my whole life. And so I took a lot of singing lessons and stuff like that, choir and all of that stuff. And that's where I got the vocal training that I had. If I would have just stuck to like straight acting and ditched all the singing parts, no, I wouldn't have gotten any of that training. And so I think being able to be in spaces where I could sing helped me learn how to help me learn about my voice in general.
Yeah.
And then I think that's where, in my acting training, there was nothing like that. So yeah, it totally is needed.
It's me. I got to peace out. I've got a very tight ship today. In spite of the enjoyment of the content, I am sitting here listening and enjoying it. Before I go, spanner in the works, don't know if you guys already talked about this, but we did an episode about the Mario movie, and Ashton brought up character voices, and I just wanted like a 1-minute recap on whether it was as bad as everyone thought it was going to be or whether it was fine, and who watched it and who didn't, and go.
I've not seen it yet. Ashton, I know you have.
I have.
Yes.
I've seen it. It's not as bad as I thought it was, but it's not as good as it could have been. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Gotta go. Love you guys.
Thanks, Jordan.
Hi, Jordan.
Have an awesome weekend, and see you next time.
All right. So, bye-bye,
Yes.
Jordan. Now we just look at his photo. Look at that photo.
Look at that handsome face.
Does anybody know how long we've been going for? Because usually he tells us.
Yeah,
Because I don't know.
I'll keep an
Wait,
eye on
let
things.
me look at my Audacity.
No, I'll keep an eye on
31
things.
minutes. We're at 31
Oh,
minutes.
we're doing all
We're
right.
doing okay.
We're doing
We're
all
doing
right.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a real shame that, because I think across a lot of the drama and performance art schools in New Zealand is actually they don't have compulsory vocal courses anymore.
Whoa.
They're now optional. Which is crazy to me, because the more and obviously, like, I'm from a biased position. I've been obsessed with voice since day freaking dot. So you know that's a thing for me. But if anything, I have learned, and I hear this from your top vocal coaches, your top singing teachers, all of these people. They all say technique gives you performance freedom.
I say that all the time.
That's
Like,
all I say.
You have to have technique. If you don't have technique, then you don't have a framework inside of which you can be creatively free.
Totally. So like this whole notion of, and I really appreciate what you said about that, Ashton, being like, nailing the emotion was more important for that person. But if they had both, the emotion would have been heightened because they could have communicated it more fully with their voice. That's how I feel about that. And I think it's a real shame that it's just like, this is one of my phrases as well. I'm always like, vocal work isn't sexy, so nobody chooses to do it.
Yeah, because it's not the same as like all the external kind
delving
of
into an
stuff.
amazing script and
like
feeling your
connecting
feelings
to
and
the character and being a method actor, right?
Because if you're working with me, you're like, cool, so I'm going to get you to do 10 times with your diaphragm. Great, well done. Like, that sort of shit isn't sexy to people who are actors and performers, and they want that adrenaline hit. And I think that's why a lot of people don't necessarily delve into this stuff, because they don't want to.
Yeah,
and that's, and it's not a criticism. It's not a criticism in the slightest. It's just an observation of human nature.
But it's still needed. So how do we get from it's like okay, I don't want to do a lot of stuff, but I still have to do it because I need to do it. You know what I mean?
I don't want to do things.
Yeah. And I mean, there's lots of stuff that actors like sit down and they don't necessarily want to do. Like if you're an actor, you don't necessarily want to sit down and be like, oh, well, how do I look at the script and I break down the different parts into beats and you know what I mean? That's totally not exactly sexy either, but we still are trained to do that.
Yeah.
So why can't we be trained to do this too?
I think because you can't intellectualize it. You have to get into
Ooh.
your body. You have to start making sound. It's actually more confronting to do vocal work on a deep
Heaps
level
more.
than it is to sit down and analyze a script and go, I want to make you feel in this moment. I feel in
Yes.
this moment. You can intellectualize the fuck out of that.
Yes.
Vocal work, you have to get up. You have to, it's like, I
It's a doing
think
thing.
it's a doing thing. And I think that could be a massive component inside it. Also, sitting down and analyzing your script is still getting you towards the sexy outcome of doing your scene.
That's true.
It still serves a purpose of targeting that component, whereas the vocal work doesn't. That
God,
would
it's
be
so satisfying though, like I teach voice for screen. So I teach voice inside of a screen acting diploma, right? So the vocal training that I'm doing with these students is specifically for appearing on a screen, not on stage, right? And what I've found is a lot of the vocal training that happens in drama schools is pitched towards stage, right?
Yes.
And stage vocal performance is really different to
Yes.
screen vocal
So
performance, which is
different.
really different to microphone performance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So your vocal techniques that you require across each of those three modalities are really, really, really different. And I think maybe there's a little bit of that kind of thing missing, like the distinction between the way we use our voice in those different spaces. On screen, we don't need the level of projection and push that we use on stage because there's a microphone right near us and we're having a dialogue with the person and it's meant to sound close like that, right? It's meant to sound intimate. And then when we get onto a microphone, we need even less projection, but we still need to maintain diction, right? With all of that projection gone and with all of that softness brought in. And that is a technique that I have to walk people through all the time.
So there is a program at the university that you teach at that actually teaches this?
Yes.
Wow. What a
You and Father Twain.
gift.
What a
Yeah, I
gift.
know.
Like,
Yeah.
what a gift.
I mean, look,
to
I know
those, like, actors.
I know other teachers, other voice teachers that are teaching this kind of thing in other spaces as well. But this vocal unit that I'm doing, I was brought in to design it, and it's VET, which in Australia is TAFE. It's not tertiary education.
Oh, right.
It's not high school. It's vocational. That's what the V in VET stands for.
Okay.
Vocational education and training, right? So it's meant to get you ready for work. You're supposed to walk out of these diplomas and be operating at a certain level and be able to work at that level, right? So I was brought into this program to write and teach this voice unit because I'm a working actor and because I'm working on mic and on screen. That's how I use my voice really effectively. So it was actually literally created to fill a gap because lots of the vocal training was being pitched from a theatre perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. And usually it's even if it's when a theater from perspective, it is a blip in that
Yeah.
like training. It is just a like tiny little mention. Like the fact that you have a whole course on it is
It's all year.
mind blowing to me.
Whole year
because,
long.
like,
I just get to spend a whole
Yeah.
year working with people on their voice. It's so fun.
And that's what I find so cool about all of this stuff is that, yes, lots of it comes from a theatre background, but I think that's valuable because it teaches you the expansiveness first. Because when you start going into theatre, people are like, your voice needs to hit the back of the room. And you're like, how the fuck do I do that?
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
So what I like about that, and because this is how I always frame it when I'm teaching, I'm not teaching people projection. I'm teaching people balance of muscles to acquire a voice that is safe at any volume.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how, like, if we're working through, theatre stage to mic, obviously in mic we can have different volumes and in stage we can have different volumes. But for theatre, it's got to be at that volume 100% of the time. Because just because you're in an intimate scene on stage doesn't mean you can drop your projection or your balance of muscles at any given time. So I love that people train here. But if people taught it more in a sense of you can still have that balance of muscles in these different volumes, that would be the valuable thing to carry across, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And you can apply that to like diction, enunciation, articulation,
100%.
whatever it is that, however you want to frame that process of having clarity of speech, right? That is a balance of muscles also because it's a balance of breath support. It's a balance of vocal fold connection and how firmly those vocal folds are meeting and forming the sound. And then it's a balance of how much muscular activation you're using in your articulators, and all of them, right? Like you might still want to keep a fairly kind of tight amount of diction in your tight amount of tension in your lips, but keep your tongue really, really soft, for instance.
Yeah.
And so the balance of those muscular tensions is the foundation. And if you can learn that, then you can learn how to apply that balance at all different levels of tension.
Yeah.
So my question is, to anybody who's listening out there, how do you balance having all of that going on in your head as you're performing, and then also nailing the acting part, the emotions and the intention and all of that jazz? How do you do that?
Deanna, we're going to say, I was going to say we're going to say the same word at the same time. I was literally going to say practice as well.
You're going to say practice, right?
I was going to boil it down.
Your craft.
Practice.
You train a lot. You go work with as many different practitioners of the craft as you possibly can, but you have to practice. This is muscular, right? No one gets good at muscular activation without repeated fucking practice. Get in the reps. Do the thing. That's it.
And when you pick up your script for the first time, especially if you are working in fucking theatre, don't vocal pattern yourself into quiet muscular activation because you're practicing your script inside your house by yourself.
Yeah.
Ooh,
When
good
you
tip.
it's really helpful when you start working on it. For me, I don't always do that because I've got a dial on my body for projection, so I don't have to do that because I've practiced. But for other people, when I'm meeting them new and they're first going into theatre and they start practicing their lines, I'm like louder, 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 because otherwise you're going to vocal pattern, and if you start getting hyper emotional because you've tapped into the energy of your thing or whatever it is, your muscular is going to go back to what it knows.
Yeah.
And you're just going to lose it completely. So if you're new to theatre, pick up your script and practice it out loudly while you're learning your lines, but not shouting. Please don't shout.
I would encourage you even maybe to practice outside, like in your yard or something.
Yeah.
Or like if you do want to do it inside, and imagine like if you live in like a block of rooms, houses or whatever, imagine your voice traveling through 2 or 3 walls.
Yeah.
That, put that directional energy on it, because then you're not just going to be hitting the wall in front of you, you're going to be hitting the wall 3 walls through. It's so important, and it's actually something I'm working with a theatre company just down the road. Actually, it was real nice. I can walk there. I didn't need to tell you that, but I did. It was so superfluous to the point. Is that
adjacent, not superfluous, adjacent.
The whole reason I'm there is because the company on a whole, because like it's just community theatre, so like there's new actors coming in all the time, and it's people who haven't been trained. They have a problem with volume all the time. So that's what I'm going in there to do. I'm going in there to be volume captain, and practice with that, because otherwise your patrons can't hear you, and it's frustrating.
That's so
and they
funny.
paid to be there.
Yep.
Like
and they
want
wanna
to
hear the
what
story.
you have to say. Yeah.
I do the opposite end of the scale with people. I am always. I'm the, what did you call yourself? The volume what?
A volume captain.
Yeah. Well, I'm volume captain too, but I'm like, get quieter.
So interesting.
Get quieter. And I'm working with lots of singers at the moment, right? Singers who are trained to have really strong muscular activation all the way through their core. Their diaphragm like fucking punches shit out of them really, really hard. The recoil in their ribs and their intercostal muscles is insane. They can generate insane amounts of power, and it's far too much for the microphone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For a voiceover microphone. It's excellent for if you're singing and you're recording a singing voice, but like you use a microphone in a really different way. You use a different microphone, different environment, and gain is set very, very differently and stuff, right? But when we come into the voiceover space, and what we're trying to do is create intimacy and connection and like a dialogue with someone who's probably listening in headphones or something like that, we have to pull all of that control out. All of that muscular tension through the body has to disappear. And what I see happen is as soon as these people let go of the muscular tension through their torso, they also let go of all of the muscular tension in their mouth, in their jaw, everywhere.
In their folds.
And they go from being, I'm like this and everything's really strong and functional to right? It's really, really interesting, like that level of muscularity and the granularity of the control, like that concept of getting things on a dial. It's hard. It takes effort and time and practice, and you have to learn how to do all the different bits and pieces. You know, you have to learn, what does it mean to physically have lots of support in my torso, but not very much like tension and support in my lips? What does it mean to have lots and lots of articulatory tension and support in the mouth, but hardly any breath support? Right? Like learning how to do those things is the craft component, right? That's what craft is. Skill acquisition is, here are the skills of doing the things, right? I read a thing, I speak into a microphone, I do this kind of stuff. Craft is about the refinement of those skills into something that's like really adaptable and variable, and that you can play with in lots of different directions, which is why technique is so important, right? Because it gives you the capacity to then have the freedom to explore your craft.
Right. And when you explore your craft and you part of oh God, it's gone. I lost it. Part of
Deep belly breath.
Yeah. Drop into your belly.
Part of learning your craft, part of growing your craft is like what you said before. It will, when you have that, it will give you performance freedom to nail those other things, because you won't be worried that you aren't heard, or you're in your head trying to be heard, or you have the freedom to then let your character feel the feelings and still be understood and heard and all of those things. Because what's the point of having your character do all this emotional stuff if nobody understands?
100%.
If nobody who's watching understands.
Yes.
Because I had this happen for me just recently. I did my first theatre show in like 3 years, and oh my days, I had so much fun. But it was just beautiful. I treated it as a vocal experiment because I'm a nerd, but that's fine. So what happened was that my character was an absolute nutcase, in the sense that she was flighty. She was running away from her own wedding, right? You've got to be in some kind of state for that. And because of my vocal training, I was able to stretch her range into all kinds of places because I could, which meant emotionally I could go in different places.
Yeah,
I wasn't stuck, because I had these like high-pitched, squealy, shouty moments. Like, because, when you're arguing with a best friend, you're like, I did not, and you say things like that.
Yes.
So I was able to get into those pitch ranges, keep my voice safe, and carry it across, which meant that my character had, because it's a comedy as well, so I had to go big. But if I didn't have that vocal technique, I would have stayed in a narrow vocal range. My character wouldn't have had as much impact, and it wouldn't have been as fun. Yeah. So, and I am going to toot my own horn about that. It was so much fun because I did the work.
Yep.
If you're not doing the work, team, anybody who's listening, you're just going to get to a level and you're going to stay there. Keep doing the extra stuff.
And it does get easier. This is the thing about putting the reps in, right? Like, the question that you asked, Ashton, is how do you do both? How do you be a really solid performer who's emotionally connected and delivering the emotional content and the subtext and all that kind of stuff of the script, and also be technically proficient around the way that you use your voice and your body? Right. And practice is the thing, but what also happens is the more you practice, the easier it gets. You know, so I would recommend, if you're working on these things at the moment and you don't think you're in a place where you can be technically proficient at the delivery tools in terms of how I use my voice, how I use my body, if you can't do that and also do the emotional stuff at the same time, practice them separately, right? Give yourself the space to practice the emotional stuff without worrying about the physicality of the articulation or the body language or whatever it is. And then also give yourself an opportunity to practice those other things without worrying about emotional content and connecting to things and telling a story, right? Yeah. Practice them independently and even break those things down even more inside of the technical skills. Practice, what does it mean to have tight articulation? What does it mean to have this? What does it mean to have good breath support versus no breath support, or strong breath support versus no breath support? Practice all of those things individually without the pressure of having to get them right in combination with other things.
It's the conscious competence scale, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, you practice your technique until you do not think about your technique, and that sits inside the conscious competence scale. So when you first start, you're unconscious about how incompetent you are. Yeah. And then you get conscious about how incompetent you are. So you're aware of your shitness. And then you get competent and conscious.
Yes,
And
that's
then you
right.
get competent, unconscious. So you want to get to the
Nice.
point where you're competently unconscious about what you're doing because you've worked your technique to the point where you can forget about it and let all of the other stuff wash over you, like being an actor and listening.
Yeah, totally, right?
Because you
Yeah.
can't listen while you're thinking about your technique.
And the
Yes.
interesting thing about that competency scale, right, is often what happens is people, they become consciously incompetent, realize how much they don't know, and get it like, that often is a stopping point for people in the learning process. People go, oh, fuck, there's heaps I don't know, I'm bailing, it's too hard, right?
Yeah.
But if you then keep working and you become consciously competent, you're like, oh, I'm doing the thing. Fuck yeah, look at me go. I'm doing the thing. Woo! Right? And then you add in another thing, or you keep practicing it and you go into unconscious competence. You're like, oh my God, I just did the thing without thinking about it. That's amazing. As soon as you add in a new parameter that you're maybe not unconsciously competent at, you will drop the unconscious competence back to conscious competence. That's a thing that happens. Right. And you may even then drop all the way back to conscious incompetence, right? You might be like, oh, I thought I knew how to do this and now it's fucked up and gone backwards again. But the reason it's gone backwards is because the new hard thing made you drop back into a space where you had to think about the thing that you thought that you didn't have to think about anymore. Right. So a perfect example of this is my 17-year-old is learning how to drive at the moment. And he did a bunch of his early driving in an automatic car, right? And now we're teaching him how to drive a manual, right? He got good. He thought he was really good at managing a car on the road, right? And being aware of traffic and reading the road and his like road skills where he thought they were really awesome, right? And then we put him in a manual car and made him think about changing gears and clutch point and all of those different things. And his roadcraft went out the fucking window.
Off it goes.
Right? Gone.
Yeah.
So he thought that he was in unconscious competence around his roadcraft, but he wasn't really yet. It's just that he didn't have to apply all of his brain to thinking about it all of the time.
So this is completely off the topic of voice stuff, but I actually have a really funny story about that.
Cool.
When I was 20, I had to have been like 25, 26. I had been driving a manual car my entire life. I was in the market for buying a new car, and I decided, having never driven a stick before, that I was going to buy I was used to driving an automatic.
Automatic.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Automatic.
Cool.
I mixed up the words. I'd been driving an automatic my whole life. I decided finally I'm going to get a manual and I'd never tried it before, and I was just like, I'll be fine. Bought the car. Could not drive it home.
Not fine, right?
Not fine. Could not even drive it home. I'm like, oh, I'll get this. I'll just practice in the parking lot a little bit, and I'll be able to drive home. Like, this is easy peasy. I had to return the car I bought because I couldn't drive it and buy a different car. That is a true story that happened to me.
Like, that blows my brain because I grew up driving a 1950 Morris Minor. So so it has like a choke to get the car started.
Yeah.
And so it's a stick. It's an old car, and it was so freaking cool. So like, even as you started that story, my brain was going, oh no.
Yeah.
Because I grew up driving difficult manuals.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
It was
Absolutely.
a cute little car. But,
I bet it was.
I mean, the one I bought even was cute too. It was adorable. It was a cute little car. It was like all silver. I was like, oh, I'm just going to be buzzing around town in this. No, not so much. No, I couldn't even buzz out of the parking lot. Like, there was no buzzing happening. Sorry, that was my off-topic story, but it had to be told.
I love
like
it. And it wasn't that off topic because I took us off topic with the car thing analogy anyway. So it's like completely on topic. Well done. Very, very
Well
good.
done.
Very
Well
good.
done.
Now, speaking of buzzing, we are going to do sounds I can't make. I don't actually know if we're buzzing, but I was looking for a segue and I thought that was pretty nice.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was
it.
really nice.
I thought you nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Tessa, you
Yeah.
are taking the place of Jordan in our sounds we can't make for this week. Okay.
Yeah. Tessa is taking the place of Jordan, who took the place of Tessa because she
Yeah,
wasn't doing it well enough.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
the first time
So-
Jordan did it, I watched that episode again the other day, and he fucked it up, and it was real
Of course
funny.
he did. Of course he did. It's a hard job, right?
It is a hard job.
It's a hard job.
And because he left us part way through, I'm now going to have to find it on my phone. So talk amongst yourselves while I have him.
Okay. So, what should we talk about, Ashton? Do you drive it? Do you drive a manual now, or do you drive an auto still?
What do you think?
What do you think? I think you probably still drive an auto.
Yes, I live in Southern California. I live in the greater Los Angeles area. Yes, I have to drive. Not being able to drive is not an option. I now drive an automatic and will forever because I don't know what would happen. Like if I was like stranded and they're like, the only way you're going to get out of this desert is if you drive this stick shift car. And I'd be like, okay, I guess I'm dying here.
Yeah. But this is what I said to my son. Not quite that way, but I'm like, dude, right, if you don't have this skill set, you are seriously hobbling yourself, right? What happens if you're at a party, all your mates are drunk as, right? You're the only one that, like, for whatever reason, stayed sober and someone gets hurt and they need to get to a hospital, right? And no one could call an ambulance for some random reason. Let's assume that the only way that we can get somewhere is by someone getting in a car and driving it, right? And if you can't drive that car, your friends are fucked. Right?
Yeah.
Like, is that something that you want to do? And it's a bit of an extreme version of events, but like, why would you deny yourself that skill set?
Thanks,
so valuable.
Deanna. I really appreciate the pep talk and if I could drive a stick, Deanna, I
Just
would
learn.
drive it.
Learn.
Do you know
Learn
what else?
how to drive a stick, Ashton. It's
When
not
I
that
come over,
hard.
I'll teach you, Ashton. When I come over, one day I'm going to come over, I'll teach you how to do it because you know what else? And I don't know if this is true for everybody, but boys who can drive stick well is like, it's a sexy thing in New Zealand. Like people who can drive. Yeah. Well, yeah. Because like if you're like just an automatic driver, you're like, oh yeah, cool. But when a boy can like just like get into a car and like with a manual and just, I might be outing myself a little bit about how much I like people who can drive well.
Well, I think that's really interesting because I suspect
hot.
it's the opposite here. Like it's not that if you drive a manual, you're hot. It's if you drive an auto, you're a bit of a wuss.
That actually might be it. Because I grew up in a southern farming community. Like all the boys could drive tractors. Because tractors, you know what fucks me off on television? I've sworn a lot of them in this episode, but oh well. In television shows when like some person just like gets in a tractor and drives it, fuck off, mate.
No, the tractors are like
no.
What they're like?
They're
what even is
extremely
going on here?
They're like hydraulics and like all kinds of, or like when people get into like
a truck. And
like
just
class
drive off
5
in a
trucks
truck.
and just drive somewhere and you're like, you can't do that.
No one can do that.
You can't do that.
At the climbing gym that I go to a lot, there's a truck driving school around the corner and regularly, right, we like come around the corner to go to the climbing gym and there's like a truck like side, not on its side, but like on a weird angle across a road because someone's trying to learn how to reverse around a corner in like a really, really big ass truck, right?
It's hard.
And there's like hazard lights flashing and they like wave us around because there's no way that person's going anywhere real fast. Like it's hard to drive a truck.
They're really hard. So it's like a pet peeve of mine in television shows when someone gets in a tractor and they're like, oh, just drive it. No, you can't do that. Right, team, I found the video. I found it a few minutes ago. But,
sounds like can't make.
I feel like...
And here's me, like 10 minutes ago, I'm like, fuck, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, like we have trouble talking. I still had more to say about the car thing, but I'm going to shut up now because we got to move on.
We are the good talkers.
Oh, my days. This is ridiculous.
All right, so what are we doing? What's our sound?
Today, we're doing Jennifer Coolidge.
Oh, cool.
So I've never tried Jennifer Coolidge. I've done her by accident when I'm trying to do other voices.
I've seen that video. I've seen you doing a video and you're like, oh, no, I'm being Jennifer Coolidge. Oh, yeah,
I was doing Ash Ketchum and I turned into Jennifer Coolidge. I don't know how that happened. So I'm just going to play, because it's quite a long clip, so I'm just going to play the first 2 and then I think we just do the first 1. So let's see how we go.
Oh, my God. You look like the 4th of July. It makes me want a hot dog real bad. I'm taking the dog. Dumbass. You're not very...
I love that line.
What? So I think we should do I'm taking the dog.
Because I think is that from the Reese Witherspoon?
Yes.
Yes.
Legally
Blonde.
Yeah. So let's. Oh God. Oh, this is a nightmare. All right, here we go. So, I'm taking the dog. Dumbass is the line.
I'm taking the dog. Dumbass. You're not...
I'm taking the dog.
So first off, she's American, so we got to make sure that we've got that going in the
check.
I'm taking the dog. This is how I get into an American accent. I'm taking the dog.
Oh, totally. Tongue out is perfect.
I'm taking the dog.
I'm taking the dog.
I'm taking the dog.
I'm taking the dog.
I'm
All right.
taking the dog.
Dumbass.
I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
I reckon. Let's have a listen to her again. I think you've got a little bit too much breathy
Gravel.
vocal fold going on there. So let me bring her back because she's a little bit more nasal, I think.
Yeah, she is.
I'm taking the dog. Dumbass.
I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
Yeah, I reckon if you can split the diff between those two things now, because now we've got this without that, and before we had that without this.
I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
There we go. Nice.
That was
That was pretty good.
Yeah, Ashton, do you want to give it a whirl? Do you want to hear it again?
Yeah, one more time.
Yeah, cool. Oh, God. Oh, this is why we need Jordan. Seriously, he took this job from me and now I've forgotten how to do it.
I'm taking the dog. Dumbass.
I'm taking the dog, dumbass. It's not the right pitch. It's the right cadence, but it's not the right pitch.
Yeah.
I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
Ooh,
That was
the rasping
way
yours is
closer, yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That was closer.
I think that was way closer. And I think if you
taking the
stretch
dog.
out your vowels just a little bit
Yeah.
heavier and round them down.
I'm.
Yeah, I think if you did that, you'd be pretty bang on. Hang on, let me just for you.
I'm taking the dog. Dumbass.
I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
Yeah.
You sound like Family Guy.
I do.
That's so good.
That was. I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
All right,
Right.
Tess, your turn.
All right, I gotta listen first. Hang on.
I'm taking the dog. Dumbass.
Oh, I got the giggles. I'm taking the dog, dumbass. No, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jennifer Coolidge here. I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
Closer. It's like she's
Closer.
got this really. She's actually quite crisp in some of her sounds. I'm taking doesn't have a lot of rasp in it, right? I'm
Yeah.
taking the dog, and then
Yeah.
she drops into rasp. I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
Yeah. Shall we listen again?
Yeah.
One more time.
I'm taking the dog. Dumbass.
I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. The dog and the dumbass were
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
Oh,
Too
dumbass was good.
Dumbass.
Mm.
I'm taking the dog, dumbass. I don't know.
Mm,
Deanna,
it's
one last
hard.
will.
I'm taking the dog, dumbass.
Oh, I liked that.
I think we're all very close,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
none of us are nailing it. But
No.
we're all very close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, like this is our first go at it as well, but
Yeah.
she's such an iconic voice that if you're even like a millisecond, milla,
Tiny bit off.
What's the word that I was looking for there?
I don't know.
A minuscule.
You went way off. We don't know.
I don't even know. Does it even start with M?
Probably not. If you're even a smidgen, I'm going to go with smidgen. If you're even a smidgen off, you'll get ripped to bits for it because some people can, mate, they can nail it.
Wow.
So,
I know. Have you seen
they're
Shelby
incredible.
Young do it? We love
I
Shelby Young.
have. We love Shelby
Man,
Young.
She's so good at it. She's real
so
good at it.
good to the point where she did a thing using her voice and it started like a bit of a problem because people thought it was actually Jennifer Coolidge doing
Oh.
this
Oh,
thing.
no.
It was really funny. I
Shit.
think, it was really funny. I can't remember what it was, but it didn't get her in trouble, but it was just like a, no, team,
funny
that's not
thing that
Jennifer
happened.
Coolidge. That's Shelby Young.
Wow.
So good.
That's
Well,
so cool.
I think we could mediumly do that.
Yeah,
that
I
voice.
think we
I think
can.
if we had some
I
practice.
think we can. I think what's interesting about that is there's a lot of elements to doing a person, right? Like there's personality, there's accent, there's all of those kinds of things,
Yeah.
right? But if we just look at this from the vocal quality that's there with the clarity through the first part of the sound and then the rasp on the dog, dumbass, I think we all found our way to that, which is, I think, really, really cool. And the accent can be added on to that and the cadence can kind of be added on to that, I
Yeah.
think. And, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that but I'm very oriented towards, get the muscularity and the physicality right first, and then add on the other things.
I'm like that too. And what's tricky about Jennifer Coolidge is that she keeps a high kind of palatal sound while dropping into rasp.
While being
and you
raspy.
often don't get that combination. That combination is usually when we're high and nasal, we stay up here, and then if we're low and raspy, we've got that we've got like they kind of pair with each other. But to have I'm taking the dog, dumbass, like to have those two things together is actually like we're splitting your brain in so many different directions to hold both of those spaces. It's real hard.
Which is like really like the way that you took me through that was a perfect example of that, right? Like I started down here, I was too raspy, and then I went up into the bright space, and then I met in the middle.
Yeah, split the diff.
Split the diff. I did a little Instagram video on
splitting
the diff. I know you did.
That's why I said it. So, and actually, I think that really perfectly encapsulates what we've talked about today.
100%.
If your technique wasn't there, you lost other things.
Yes.
Made it really hard.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
All right. Amazing.
Nailed it.
Okay. I think that's a good time to wrap up because, it just feels good. So thank you for joining us for today's episode. The very first, is this first? Yeah, first episode of, we're still in first episode of season 4, aren't we?
Yes.
Still?
Although, let's be fair, this is probably like 3 episodes. Jordan's going to be so
It feels
pissed.
like a long time ago that I said that this was the first episode of season 4. Was that actually a whole nother episode? No, it was
What
this
year
one.
is it? Yeah, what is it?
That's exactly what I feel like. So thank you for joining us for season 4. We're really, really psyched to have you here. We fucking love doing this show, and we're just always, always, always thrilled to know that you're listening and that it's just such a buzz. We love it. So please let us know when you're listening, when you're hanging out with us in the Good Talkers gang. Please let us know that you're here because we love to know about it. And if you've got any questions about voiceover, or you've got a story that you want to share, if you've got some sort of story from a booth, you've got a sound that you want us to make, we really want to hear about it. And if you have tongue twisters, send those babies in, because here's the exciting bit. We're doing a competition. We've got a prize to hand out. And it's really awesome. It is a book that basically we use as a Bible. It's got all of us are really, really, really involved in using this book. And it's by an amazing, amazing vocal coach, author, teacher named Patsy Rodenberg. Okay. And the book is called The Right to Speak. And it is fucking awesome. Ashton's holding it up right now in the video. So make sure that you're checking out a video either on TikTok or YouTube. We have full videos on both of those platforms. But we have a brand new copy. Is it a hardcover or a soft cover?
It's a soft cover. This is actually the giveaway copy I am holding in my hand
We have
this very moment.
a brand new soft cover copy of The Right to Speak. Now, this book is amazing, right? I use this in teaching. I use it for my own personal, vocal work.
Me too.
It's a beautiful book, and it's really, really foundational from the perspective of understanding your voice and empowering yourself through the use of your voice. So we're going to give one of these away. And here's how we're going to do it. We want you to send us your tongue twisters, okay? Everyone who sends us a tongue twister goes into the draw. And then in episode 3 of this season, so you've got 2 kind of episode cycles to get those tongue twisters in, but don't waste any time. Do it now. Send in a tongue twister. Okay, we'll put you in the draw. And in episode 3, we are going to draw a name out of the probably a digital hat. I don't think it'll be a real hat, right?
I'm not writing down names. I'm not doing that.
I think we'll probably do one of those fun spinny wheel things that throws out confetti on the screen afterwards. So we're going to do one of those. So make sure that you send us your tongue twisters. Okay, we will put you in the draw, and you will be in the running to win a copy of Patsy Rodenberg's The Right to Speak. And we're so excited that we're doing a competition.
And this is open internationally to anyone. We will, so international, we'll send this to anybody because we're international. So we're going to send it to whoever wins, wherever you are, as long as you are on planet Earth, we'll try. We're going to get this to you.
Well,
so.
we'll get it to you.
There you go.
Never fear. So you can send your tongue twisters in to thegoodtalkerspodcast@gmail.com. I think we'll keep it all happening in the email space so that it's easy for us to track. So if you do happen to go, I'll just send it on Messenger or I'll put it on your Instagram or something, it doesn't go in the drawer, okay?
Tessa will not compute that.
Yeah. Tessa will not compute that. So it has to come to our email. thegoodtalkerspodcast@gmail.com is where you send that to, okay? And, above and beyond that, make sure you're following us on all of the socials. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook. Just follow us, come hang out, right? We love hearing from you. And that's it from us for this episode. Welcome to season 4. We're looking forward to seeing you next episode. Take care. And thanks. Bye.
Bye. Bye from Jordan. Bye.
That was a terrible Jordan.
Sounds we can't make. Jordan.
Oh, guys, we've got to cut this episode. We've got to cut it.
Okay. Bye.